Hey Hillary, how you doing? All right. First iteration created the curve on the back to use for the timeline. I saw that from so it's slightly different than the front page. That's great. Uh, Use the same colors. I have a feeling I need to manipulate the blocks to type along the timeline. Yes, I'm going to recommend that you do that exactly. So now they don't exactly look right. I totally agree, and I think the reason they don't look right is that the type is so much bigger than the body copy that it's almost precluding the viewer from reading the copy. And I think that that's by no, it's just by virtue of simple hierarchy that this is so demanding. It's got this curve. There's so much activity and movement over here. It's almost, I've got this poor little type here. It's like how do you compete with this? So we're going to address that definitely. Let's go ahead and see. Biography, should I shorten? Yes, I think the biography, we'll talk about that. Okay, let's go ahead and jump to it. So I've got this open here, and let's go ahead and take a look at the layout first. And then at that point, we will go ahead and look at the typography. So the main thing I'm seeing here is we've got what seems to be a nice 3-column grid, which is great, right? It's fantastic, but it doesn't look like it's exactly 3 columns. So you might want to adjust this a little bit. This looks like it's a little wide, that same width would take us off the page here. So I would establish this as a solid 3-column grid. Of course, you're only using the first column in that grid, but nonetheless, the phantom lines of column 2 and 3 are still there. So it's a little bit uncomfortable, even for a novice viewer, to look at this and say, wait a second, this looks like it's going to fit 3 times, but it's not going to fit 3 times. Does that make sense? So I think to increase page, that all ties in with page harmony. And I think that decreasing the size of this and or adjusting the left margin is going to include ample room that if you wanted to duplicate this column twice, it would easily fit in the remaining area. Okay. I think this area right here is a little bit unsettling as well. What I would recommend doing here is taking an imaginary line and drawing it right under Malala, not on the baseline, just right below the baseline. Right about, actually, you can even do the baseline right there. And maybe even consider some other sort of treatment there. Maybe you just go straight dark background right there. Maybe you introduce another color for the background there. Maybe you reverse these and use white for the background and red for the letters. Work it out. What I'm trying to establish is a header for the poster, an area where the viewer can come and land before they peruse the composition. Right now, we don't have that because the timeline goes all the way up to the top. So I'd like to get a little negative space in there. Start the timeline. Actually, believe it or not, we're going to start the timeline right around where her eyes come down here. So we'll start that 1997 right there where she was born. And that's going to assist the viewer into easing into the timeline because we always are going to look at the image first. What's going to happen is we're going to look at the image. Once we reduce the type size here and adjust the timeline, the viewer is going to look at the image first. Always look at the eyes first. Remember that. Humans always look at the eye first. We are fascinated with other humans, specifically the eyes. If there's ever an image of a human being in a composition and their eyes are showing, you better believe viewer is going to go to that area first on the page. Okay, so as we do, we'll jump here. We'll look at her eyes. We'll look at her face. We'll look at her outfit. We'll look at the headline. Then we'll bounce down and read the body copy. And then we'll probably do some back and forth between the body copy and the timeline itself. So we'll start this 1997 where she was born right down there. You're going to have to move these a little closer. What I would recommend is this. I would say you got 2014, you got 1997 to 2014. So we can even maybe try something interesting here. And in the timeline right now, I don't like the way, I think it's really awkward the way the type sits. Some of it's left aligned, some of it's right aligned. Let me see. Yeah, actually, none of it's really left aligned, but that's left aligned, that's left aligned. These are all right aligned. So there's a little inconsistency here, and I think that creates, again, some visual tension. I'm wondering if we did this, if we, instead of saying July 2nd, right now you've got July 12th, then in some areas you've got the date. In other areas you just have the year. What I'm wondering is if we start a timeline and we take just, instead of the date at all, we don't even include the date in the information. You just have the Taliban takes over Swat Valley. Then right over here on the timeline, the corresponding spot, you have a little white circle with the number 17 in it, or '07. And here you would say 97. So a little circle 97, little circle 009, little circle 09, a little circle 11, a little circle 12. That indicates the year, right? And the corresponding, then you don't have this little kind of headline or introduction area to the information in the timeline that is throwing everything off. So we just have this little line with the white year in it, and then right next to it, left aligned. Yes, I would say, let me see how to do this. I'd say keep it all left aligned. I was going to say on this side, you can maybe right align it. Try it, see if it works, so that your alignment is nearest the year, that circle that holds a year. Try that. That's the only thing I would require a change or even exploration of a change of alignment, is where it falls on the right side of the timeline, but most fall on the left side. So try left aligned, see how that works on the right side of the timeline. See if right aligned might look better. Try that. Also, in your typography, there's a lot of text here, and it's very, very, very small. If you see right now, I've got this set at, it's poster. So you know, most people are going to look at a poster from a couple feet away, so they're not right up on it. But they're far enough away to see the whole poster, right? But if we're mimicking that viewpoint here, you can see this type here is very, very small. I think there's a lot of type here. I think there's probably too much for the fact that this is a poster. And you're asking the viewer here to stand in front of a poster that's presumably on a wall and to read this, which is going to take a minute or two, right? And I think that's asking a lot of the viewer for a poster to read this much information. I recommend reducing the amount of body copy. I recommend increasing the size of the type. Okay, so those are my layout recommendations. Broken, if you set up that grid in 3 columns, this will break the first column grid, but that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Okay, let's talk about type. Now, 97, the dates here are begging for old style characters, old style numerals. And also, I'm going to zoom in, and when I do, we're going to take a look at some of the years in the body copy. But as we can see, there's plenty of use of years. Those are going to be gorgeous when they're set in old style characters. I would go as far as saying maybe even select a typeface that has open type capabilities so that you can incorporate old style characters to your typography. The type in that when you do adjust your type here, I think this type is too small and this type is really large. So think about how you're going to adjust the two to be more reciprocal. You've got some rag problems here. Take a look at my rag diagram, my rag illustration. Bad rags go long line, short line, really long line, short, short, diagonals like that, wavy patterns like this. You don't want any of that. You just want this kind of basic long, short, this kind of staggering, right? But not even noticeable. So we've got a couple of areas. For the most part, your rags are pretty good. That line's probably too long. That line's too long. That line's too short. This line's really short. So go through these rags right here are perfect. From her down to Malala right down there, those are perfect rags. Then we start getting into this diagonal right here. You don't want that diagonal, and you don't want these kind of wavy patterns either. Distance between the longest and the shortest here is considerable. There's a big diagonal right there. You don't want that. Okay, let's go ahead and zoom back out. Oh, yeah, those old style characters, if you can work those in, that would be fantastic. Okay, final comments here. You've got your type here. Now, this is black type on a red background. So we've got some color issues to deal with here. You're also using a serif typeface at a very small size. I think the typographic color is okay because you've increased your kerning here. I'm sorry, your leading, which was smart. What I would recommend here is that you increase your, sorry about that. I would recommend you increase your tracking through the entire selection of type. because right now with the serif typeface and the color background, getting a little bit of difficulty in reading those serifs are starting to run together. So definitely recommend opening up the tracking there. All right, so those are my comments. Oh, one more thing, right there, BBC, perfect opportunity for small caps. I don't see any other areas where we can use small caps, but think about small caps. Also think about using italics for specific words for emphasis. Not necessary at all, but think about it. Other than that, I think it's a fantastic start. Okay, so any questions, comments, concerns, clarifications, please let me know. Great job. Thank you.